Ocean Pines is a vibrant residential community nestled on Maryland's eastern shore. With over 9 miles of waterfront property, amenities like an 18-hole championship golf course and a public yacht club, and a rich history dating back to 1968. Of course, if you live here, you probably know most of that. And if you don't, it's almost all apparent from your first visit. Each week on the Pines Cast, we work to bring out the ocean pines that might be less apparent. We celebrate the region, the amenities, and, most of all, the people who make and keep Ocean Pines a special place to live. Welcome to the Pines Cast, your source of news and insights about Ocean Pines and the official podcast of the Ocean Pines Association. This week, we speak with Tim McMullen, who's been playing tennis and organizing recreation in Ocean Pines since the early 1970s. We talked to him specifically and at length about the Mary Mack Foundation, founded in his wife's honor, and all sorts of other cool stuff that's been going on there for as long as he can remember, which is, 50-ish years. So I don't even want to waste your time talking to me. Just remember that if you're listening to this on something, you should subscribe on that thing. So whether you're listening on Spotify, on Apple, on Amazon, just hit subscribe or follow, and you can reach us. And of course, any feedback you can get me at the email address by tonyrusso@gmail.com. That is BYTONYRUSSO@gmail.com. I'm taking suggestions. I'm taking comments. I'm taking criticisms. I'm taking, hey, I just got your email address and I wanted to see if it worked. Whatever you'd like to send to me, I would like to read. But again, don't want to spend too much time on me because this is going to be a great show. So I'm going to hand you over to Tim McMullen right now. Here's Tim. So I think, the best place to start out is with how you got to Ocean Pines. So can you tell me, what brought you to Ocean Pines, what kept you in Ocean Pines? And
this would be in the early 1970s. Our dad was getting ready to retire from the Pentagon, and he was invited by Boise Cascade to spend a weekend in a hotel in Ocean City. And he gave me a call on a Sunday. He was very impressed, and my older brother Don and his wife Karen and my wife Mary and I, we met. We made a decision that the three families would purchase a lot on 53 Cannon Drive, and then we had a nanny coke home built probably in 1974. If you add up the years real quickly, that looks like it may be 50 years.
You came sight unseen, or did you come down too and take a look around? What was that like?
Mary and I had actually toured the Pines before that, and before the home was built, we rented a little condo on 94th Street. Mary and I were the first people who directed our summer youth program. That started before our home was built. So that summer on 94th Street, we'd be commuting here every day to operate the summer youth program.
Oh, tell me about that. So what kind of inspired the summer youth program? Did it have a name besides the Southern Youth Program?
There was conflicting philosophies. Some people thought that Ocean Pines was going to be a retirement center, and those families that would come down for the summer and had children from the age of 6 to 14 quickly realized that they're not really interested in going with their parents to the beach every day. They want to be in their peer groups.
Right.
So we had a fairly large number. Eventually, we got up to 90 children a day.
Wow.
And I had an excellent group of staff people. These were people that coached in Anne Arundel County, and we operated, I think, a really neat camp. We would take them to the beach one day a week over at our beach on 49th Street. We would take day trips, and we'd run from 10 to 4. And we did that probably till about 1978.
Do you still see any of those kids? How well remembered is that?
I still do. The director of the Ocean City Recreation Program, before she got married, it was Susan Stribby. And Susan was just an outstanding person. tremendous athlete. It's neat now to see her being the director of Ocean City Rec. Buddy Sass, who is the golf pro at Ocean City, also is one of our young people. And so I somehow have been able to keep contact with people I met 50 years ago.
That's fantastic. I guess community involvement was always important to you. When did you make the jump to full time from coming down in the summers?
Mary passed away in 2012. I tried to do 2 homes, one outside of Annapolis and one in Nottingham Lane in the Pines. All 3 of my adult children approached me probably about 2015 and said, Dad, if you have to sell a home, don't sell the one in Ocean Pines. So I moved down here full time around 2015.
Oh, that is particularly interesting to me because that means that all the work you did while not being a, quote, full-time resident, unquote.
That's correct. But being school teachers, we could not wait to get here to spend the entire summer. And my children all grew up here during the summer. And my son, Tim, was 7 days old when we brought him to Ocean Pines. So now they have children and they want their children to experience what my children did. I have a sister, Susan Wachahusky. Her 3 boys and Susan taught. We'd be down here during the summer. And it just is an unbelievable experience, not only for children during the summer, but for school teachers who desperately need to have a summer in which they can relax, enjoy themselves, enjoy their families, and get ready for the school year.
That is so interesting. So were your earliest friends also teachers?
Yes. I think there are certain occupations. I've got a brother-in-law who was a battalion chief and operated the airport fire department at BWI. I think firemen, policemen, teachers, those people in the medical professions, I think they bond very strong, and that support system you develop in teaching will last your entire life. And there are several retired teachers in Anne Arundel County that live now full-time in Ocean Pines, and I see them a great deal.
When did you decide to expand beyond the summer? Because you guys did a bunch of stuff there as a couple, like community-oriented stuff.
I moved here in 2015. Sharon O'Hara asked me to get involved with a recreation committee, and I ended up actually chairing that committee. We just lost a great person named Frank Kramer. Frank felt strongly that pickleball was the sport of the future, and it took probably over a year for Frank to convince the board of directors that we need to turn tennis courts into pickleball courts. And I still work at the Racket Center, and if we have 120 people a day, 80 of them will be pickleball players.
I think I told this story on an earlier episode, but I want to tell it on yours as well. I consider myself kind of a pickleball hipster for the very reason that I was covering Ocean Pines as a reporter when pickleball happened. And that was 15 years ago. It could be a little bit more, right? When you guys...
I think that's right around at the time that it exploded. It's gotten to the point that Montgomery County Public Schools this year will have interscholastic pickleball.
And that's what I mean. Like now, all of a sudden, every place I turn, there's a pickleball. And I'm like, man, they've been playing pickleball at Ocean Pines forever. What was the nature of your time on the recreation board? How much of it was looking for new things to do, and how much of it was making sure the things that you had to do were up to snuff?
I think it's more adding new programs. I think we have a much friendlier board today as far as recreation. I found some of our board members to be very reluctant when we were talking about programs for our youth. I'll talk about the future. We have parents that have to take their children down to Snow Hill during the winter to play indoor soccer, indoor lacrosse, and maybe basketball. Eventually, we should build a facility in the Pines. We're the largest community in the whole county. Our parents should not be going down to Snow Hill. They should not be going over to Northside Park in Ocean City, which are great facilities. We've got to go ahead and make sure that all of our young people have programs within the Pines. And if you get young children, students involved in programs, you're not going to have problems with vandalism. And I can go through a plethora list of problems. We need to really gear our community to families with young people. I think it's an important component in the future.
And along those lines, what were some of your big wins, you think? I mean, because you if you were on the recreation committee
Right.
like the whole time, then
Well, okay, that's a good question.
yeah.
And a huge win was the building of 8 pickleball courts. And of course, Frank Kramer was deeply involved in this. Pickleball is so significant that a couple years ago we added 4 additional pickleball courts.
Wow.
So that gave us 12 pickleball courts. We have 2 multi-purpose courts where we have tennis nets and we have lines for pickleball. And there's some discussion that maybe we should take one of those tennis courts and convert them into 4 more pickleball courts. And this is something that Terry Undercoffer, our director, has been in discussions with John Viola. And we have really had a good summer here. Our public works guy, Nobi, works with us. We're upgrading the facilities. We start a project in December, which is going to renovate our restrooms. And we just need to continue to grow because pickleball thing, as we said before, is huge. Our tennis courts are of a clay material called hard true, and we have 8 of those. They are extremely good courts, especially for us senior citizens like myself that want to play tennis. But the hard asphalt can be a little tough on the old knees.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? As long as I've got you here, I may want, and this may be a surprise question. Can you talk a little bit about the skate park? Because that was a huge coup.
Yes, it was. And along with the skate parks, there were no basketball courts here. So way back in 74 or 75, we talked to them about putting basketball courts in, and they were popular. And then they built a skate park. I can't tell you the exact year. That's very popular. They are exactly the type of things that we're doing and we need to continue to do. And our recreation director, Debbie Donahue, does a nice job of overseeing all of these youth type programs.
That's fantastic. I do want to ask you about because you mentioned your late wife, and I wanted to ask you about the Merrimack Foundation. So can you tell me like how that came along?
A little background about Mary.
Please.
She worked for T. Rowe Price in Baltimore. They offered to send her to Johns Hopkins University to degree in economics, and they were willing to pay for everything. So, if anything, I definitely married way above my pay level.
Right.
She was disenchanted with that type of career, and she decided that she wanted to go to college probably after we'd been married 8 years and got a degree in therapeutic recreation. And then she was administrator at the Maryland School for the Deaf in Columbia.
Ah.
We did not start our family until we had been married 17 years. And at that time, I think Mary stayed home with my 3 children, Aaron, Timmy, and Eddie. And I think that's been the most significant thing in their development and growth. Then she decided she wanted to become a special ed teacher. So she went back to school again and was a special ed teacher, ending up at Severna Park High School. And we purchased our retirement home in 2010. 2 months later, she was diagnosed with a terminal disease, and our world did a 180 quickly. So we lost her on August 17th, 2012, which was 13 years ago. And my family decided that we needed to do something in her honor. So it's just not myself involved with this. My brother, Don McMullen, his wife, Karen, who live on Cannon Drive full time, are on my board of directors. My 2 sisters share a home here. Sharon Ansorgi and Susan Wojciechowski.
Mm.
They're deeply involved in the foundation. So it's nothing that I have created. It's what we were taught by my parents, who were both World War II veterans. If you read Tom Brokaw's book, The Greatest Generation, towards the end of the book, he spends a chapter talking about those children born after World War II whose parents were World War II veterans. Commitment to the underprivileged, your commitment to your neighborhood. Guys my age all grew up getting this from our parents, and you got it from everyone. You know, I was in Boy Scouts, Little League, and we got the same message about service to others. So we simply had an opportunity to keep Mary's memory alive. We will be having a big affair up in Manor Hill outside of Ellicott City on Saturday, the September 21st, and my 3 children will run that. The support we get for this foundation is we like to send children to summer camps. And our mission this year is a zip code should not determine a child's future. We're deeply involved with Camp St. Vincent in Patterson Park in Baltimore. They will go to homeless shelters. They will pick up children on a bus. They will give them 3 meals a day. They will give them swim lessons. They will give them lessons in English, math, and science. And this academic part of it, the socialization, the athletic part of it, it's a perfect place. I go up there every summer, and it's just, I can see children smiling. They got bright eyes, great counselors. We're also involved with Camp Barnes up in Bethany Beach. We're involved with the Ability Center in Newport News, and the summer camps are a big part of our foundation. Every child deserves a summer, and we were all blessed that we had great summers. Well, every child should have a good experience during the summer where there's growth, attention from adults, fellowship.
I do want to ask if there's a different website that I can direct people if they want to donate, or if there's
it's Mary Mac, which is simply MARYMAC.org. And we have a whole page about the foundation.
Just for people who are listening, maybe while they're in their car, that is marymac.org. MARYMAC, and you can donate. You can just find out what they do. It is
sure, it's all right there. And my address is 174 Nottingham Lane. Many people in the Pines are involved in the foundation, especially the golf community. My brother Donald is the tenured golfer in Ocean Pines. We played the 9-hole course way back in 1974. I get a tremendous response from the racket center. I've been playing tennis here since 1974, so I'm also the tenured tennis player. I don't know if that's good or bad, but we get a tremendous amount from support from the Ocean Pines community. And then across the bridge are some retired teachers. There are friends of my children that knew Mary, so we'll have a nice turnout at Manor Hill.
That is absolutely fantastic. I do want to go back a little bit because you mentioned that you bought your retirement home in 2012. What were you living in 2010? I'm sorry. What were you living in before that?
I lived in Millersville, Anne Arundel County. My last job in education, I was a mentor teacher on a federal grant entitled Teaching American History, and I would mentor younger teachers. Mary was a special ed teacher at Severna Park at that time, and we spent a year looking for a retirement home. Marlene Ott, who was our real estate agent way back when we started on Canyon Drive, who grew up close to where I grew up, knew what Mary and I were looking for, and after a year we found it, and we're extremely pleased with it. But life can throw you a curveball when you think that you know what's coming. And 2 months after we purchased the house, she was diagnosed with a terminal disease.
And I guess what I'm getting at, though, is, but you had a different house in Ocean Pines, and that was that like never
that family home
is
still a family home. My brother Don and his wife Karen lived there full time. My parents passed away in 87 and 97, and Don simply bought me out, enabling me to have my own retirement home.
And so in the meanwhile, you were coming down when you were spending your summers in Ocean Pines in, let's say, the 80s and 90s and at the turn of the century.
I'm living at our family home on Canyon Drive.
There you go. Okay, that's what I was.
And my children are working at the yacht club, being servers and bartenders.
Hey there, listeners. Are you in the Ocean Pines area and looking for a pharmacy that goes above and beyond? Look no further than Tidal Health Home Scripts. Open 6 days a week, our knowledgeable pharmacists are ready to fill your prescriptions in just minutes. Plus, we offer free home delivery in the Ocean Pines area and have a super convenient drive-through window. Need over-the-counter items? We've got a large selection. And with our monthly sales, you'll find everything you need at great prices. Conveniently located at the North Gate of Ocean Pines, Tidal Health Home Scripts is open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. To fill a prescription or arrange for a free home delivery, give us a call at 410-543-4769. That's 410-543-4769. Remember, that's Tidal Health Home Scripts, your trusted pharmacy partner. So with all of this driving down, I imagine, we try to have this, sometimes we have this section called Lost in the Pines. I imagine that sometimes getting here late at night, it wasn't always easy to find where you were going. Do you have any stories about being lost in Ocean Pines?
Yes. We were the first house on Cannon Drive. And, we have a problem right now that I personally feel it wouldn't be bad to put a couple of lights up on College Parkway. And you could drive right by Cannon Drive and miss it because the sign wasn't very well lit.
And it was brown, right? Weren't they all brown?
Yes. And you'd have to turn around. There was a actually guard gate at the south gate. You had to push a number to enter into Ocean Pines in the evening. And sometimes you'd forget the number and make a phone call to someone. That only lasted for about a year. That wasn't a real a good plan. But there are still times, and I've been here now for 50 years, that I still will go ahead and get lost. And I don't like using the GPS. I want to figure it out myself.
Right.
I'm stubborn.
It's funny. We just made a cross country trip, my wife and I, and I'm old enough to have used maps, and I feel sometimes that I wish that the GPS would use a map, because I feel like they're not looking hard enough for the best way to get to a place.
Well, that's interesting. We would leave Ocean Pines every August 1st to August 15th, and we would go to Acadia National Park in Maine. And my sister Susan and her husband Richard would bring their 3 boys, and Richard and I would always pull out maps and just come up with a little different ways of how we were going to travel. It was fun. Sometimes it was a great decision. Sometimes it was, okay, we won't try that one again.
Yeah, you learn the hard way.
But, I think that technology sometimes is not what it is built up to be, and pulling out a map and studying a map and doing this type of things is a lot of fun.
Yeah. That's why I was that's what kind of rang my bell with your story. And so now you spend some of your spare time working at the racket club nowadays?
I do. I actually was the director the year of the pandemic, and if I had any hair on my head, I'm now completely bald. That was a challenge. I had a tremendous staff. One of my good friends, Terry Undercoffer, was assisting me in when that occurred in 2020. And Terry is a tennis instructor. He coaches tennis at Worcester Prep, in which I'm his assistant. So Terry's the director this summer and asked me if I would come help him. And I jumped at the opportunity because I really believe in recreation and I believe in the racket center.
Well, we haven't had very many COVID stories on here. I would love to hear like how you kind of adapted during the pandemic to do things and how it's changed since the pandemic. Has it gone back to where it was before, or are there different things in place than there used to be?
Well, we had to set up our attendants outside of our building, and we had to put up a big plastic shield protecting them. The USTA, United States Tennis Association, came up with a recommendation in playing doubles in tennis in which you would serve with your own 3 balls. And when a ball was returned, you simply took your racket and flipped the ball to your opponent or to your partner. And USTA did some great things. The leader of my tennis group was a gentleman named Paul Rusco, who was the director of athletics in Anne Arundel County. Paul and Barbara retired here, and Paul was adamant that we were going to follow USTA directions during the COVID. And some people said, well, I think that the COVID thing is just make-believe, and I'm not going to participate in your tennis the way you guys are playing. Our response was, we understand, but we are going to try to be as safe as possible.
And what is it like now? Has it changed, or has it gone back to the way it was beforehand?
It's changed now. We have a tremendous staff, and people come in and register and when they come in the morning, and they are full-time members. So we have guests that want to come here and play at our facilities. We charge a fee for guests who live in the Pines. Then we charge a little additional more for people to live outside of the Pines. And I'm telling you, this parking lot is packed in the morning. We are really crowded. So we're excited about that.
And how did you get involved in the tennis community, and how did that develop over the years? Because we're talking, like you said, almost 50 years now.
In 1973 and 74, the tennis courts were on 589 across from where McDonald's is now.
Hmm.
And that's the first place I played tennis. And I asked someone from Ocean Pines, why would you build tennis courts on 589? They said, Tim, we're going to tear them down. They're purely marketing. So then the Swim and Racket Club was built, and they built 4 tennis courts there. And the tennis center then was at the Swim and Racket Club. Well, then we built 4 tennis courts by what's called Mumford's Landing, which is now there's a pool close to the yacht club. And that was our tennis center. And then finally in the early maybe 90, we built this beautiful facility. We are the only facility in the Delmarva Peninsula that has pickleball, platform tennis, and tennis.
Wow. And that is by design?
That is by design. That's pretty neat. And we do have people that will play 2 different sports. I just think that the interest is there. I take a look at the fantastic things we've done with our golf course, with our new clubhouse, Golf Pro, our golf superintendent. And when Terry and I meet and we talk about, what we're looking for to here, we want this place to be a destination place where people say, well, I want to come to the Pines and be involved in racket sports.
That is absolutely wonderful. And what do you see for the future of racket sports in Ocean Pines and for the future of recreation? Is there anything, that I can be a hipster about next time? What's the next pickleball? Are you guys working on the next pickleball? What's going on there?
We are working on how we can improve the situation. There's a lot of different thoughts. Eventually, if we had an indoor facility in Ocean Pines where people could play indoor tennis and indoor pickleball, that would be a huge asset.
Yeah.
Because now for people to play indoors, they have to go over to our gymnasium, which is very small. They have 3 courts, and people basically are running into each other when they're trying to play. And, they can go up to Sea Colony and Bethany, play indoor pickleball and play indoor tennis. But again, if we're the largest community in the county and we're still growing, that indoor facility would be a huge advantage.
Excellent. And that is pretty much all I have for you, unless you have something else for me.
The only thing that I'm going to add, our foundation changed after the pandemic. And now we get involved in food banks for students. And there's programs that are called Backpack Buddies. Now, these students are given breakfast and lunch at their school, but on weekends, many of their nutritional needs are not met. So teachers will go into where the backpacks are and fill them up with disposable items that the children can go ahead and use for weekends. And we're involved in Fairfield, Pennsylvania, Baltimore, Annapolis, Pasadena, Ocean City, Millsboro, Delaware, Baltimore County. We're all over the place with these backpack programs.
And that can also be supported at merrimack.org?
Exactly. In fact, like the summer camps are finished. So now we get ready for donations for backpack programs. And then around February, we'll start working, getting donations for the summer camp programs. So this is a year-round thing. Much has been given to my family, and I think we have a moral responsibility to give back.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your time and for sharing your story with me.
Thank you, and you have a safe day.
The Pines Cast is an Ocean Pines Association production. It was written and edited by me, Tony Russo, executive producer, Josh Davis. Please subscribe wherever you are listening now, or follow if you're on Apple. If you like the show, please tell someone else about it, because that is the best way to get the word out. Every week I say it, and this is a week, so I'm saying it. I would love to have your feedback, and I would love to keep this conversation going. So if you care to email me, you can do that at bytonyrusso@gmail.com. That is bytonyrusso@gmail.com. If, for example, there's a story you want to tell, but you don't want to be on the show to tell it, or there's a story you want me to find out about and have someone else tell it, shoot me an email. I'll get it all worked out. And of course, we would love to have your ratings and reviews on the app of your choice, but mostly we want you to listen to the show. We want you to like the show. And as I said, we would very much like it if you told other people about it. You can also send along comments or questions that we will address in future shows as is possible and appropriate. And that is all for this week on the Pines Cast.